Do you need to be a teacher to homeschool your kids? Have you ever thought about homeschooling before, but then you've thought, well, I'm not really a teacher, I don't have a degree? If that's a concern of yours, stick around because that's what we're talking about today on the Parent Teacher Bridge. Hi, I'm Rebecca with the Parent Teacher Bridge, where you can find the ideas and resources you need to empower you to become your child's most influential teacher. Today, we're talking about a common question. Do I need to have a teaching degree to homeschool? Before we get started, make sure you click like and subscribe and be sure along the way to leave a comment or question. Now, first of all, let me just say that teaching is an honorable profession. If you think back to your childhood, any teacher you had, any Sunday school teacher you had, whose memory has really stuck with you, their influence was positive and it was wonderful for you. We know that that has impacted many lives for the better. When you have those good teachers out there, and we all know what we mean by saying a good teacher, someone that made us feel cared for. They inspired us to learn. We wanted to do our best when we were in their class. I do believe teaching is an honorable profession, even though many people these days are dishonoring it. The second thing I want to point out about just someone having a teaching degree is that there are different types of teaching degrees. Some people are certified to teach middle school or high school or a specialized subject like math. And some people have teaching degrees that are more specialized for the younger grades, like pre-K or early elementary. Maybe they have a degree teaching reading. So let's ask this question. If you have somebody with an upper level math teaching degree, does that mean they won't be able to teach their child how to read? Of course not. Of course they can teach their child how to read, even though the classes they took in college to become a teacher probably had nothing to do with how to teach a child how to read. It sounds silly when you think about it. Of course, that math teacher with the math degree can teach their child how to read. And of course, that elementary teacher who usually teaches tons of kids how to read can help their middle schooler with a research paper. Although both of these teaching certificates are specialized, it doesn't mean that the person holding on to them can't teach anything else or isn't equipped to teach anything else. Now, the next thing that you need to realize is that homeschooling is really just an extension of parenting. You've been parenting this child for the first 5 years of their life, and then they're suddenly at kindergarten age. Well, you've taught them so many other things. Maybe you've sleep trained them. Maybe you've potty trained them. I hope you've potty trained them by that point. Two things that I think were kind of challenging as a parent. If you can get through that, I promise you, you can teach your child how to do those other things that children learn to do in school, like read and count and do math and write. You have it in you. You've been your child's first teacher this whole time, all along. And who knows your child best? You do. So what I want to set up for you is the idea of what is it that teachers do and how you, as your child's parent, have those same qualities regarding your child. And so you will be able to homeschool. Number one, teachers plan. Now, they know that whatever lesson plans they make may not always go perfectly. They may have a fire drill or some assembly that messes with their teaching plans. They may have a behavior issue. They may have someone get sick in their room, but they still start out by making a plan and setting a goal. You can do the same thing for your child. You can think, where do I want my child to be by the time they graduate and leave? Where do I want my child to be by the end of this school year? And what do I want my child to learn maybe by Christmas time? And guess what? You don't have to have all these ideas right now in your head. You can purchase curriculum to help get you started. Number two, teachers interact with children and make judgments. Well, it's your child. You've been doing this all along. You interact with your child, you speak with your child, you hopefully read to your child, and you make observations about your child. You can tell when your child is or isn't understanding something by the way they respond, by the way they act, by the things that they say. Teachers do this all the time when they are in school, whether they're meeting with a child one on one or whether they're meeting in a small group. The benefit you will have is that your teacher to student ratio will be a whole lot better than what it is in a classroom with 20 some kids to one teacher. The third thing that teachers do is they give tests. Now, before you think in your mind that the only kind of test is something that's on pencil and paper, these days a lot of tests are online on the computer. But those aren't even the only tests that I'm talking about. When you make observations, you are collecting data and you are making those adjustments. You're saying, okay, I taught my child how to do this, but they just aren't getting it. You know, new homeschool parents, especially the ones that have had their children in public school and then they take them out, they often are discovering things they never knew. Like maybe their child was a straight A student and then they set some work before them at home. They start their homeschool lessons only to find out that their child isn't getting it. Well, they're not an idiot. They can see their child is frustrated and isn't learning the material, so they make adjustments. Just having a worksheet page that your child is working on is a form of a test. Reading aloud a book to your child and asking them questions about what's going to happen next and why they think that and what that word means and why do you think that word means that, all of those are tests. They're just not pencil and paper tests. But when you homeschool, you can use lots of different ways of testing. The fourth thing that teachers do is they motivate. Now, maybe when you were in school, your teacher had a chart on the wall and they had, every kid had a little card and they turned the card if they had good behavior or bad behavior and they had certain motivations. Maybe they had a sticker chart. I've seen those in Sunday schools before, and never underestimate the power of a sticker. Really, truly. My son took a Spanish class this year, and the teacher would go through and put a sticker on the paper if it was completed, or she would stamp it. And at the end of the year, the students had to go through and count up all their stickers and stamps. And yes, they were rewarded. So that even worked with 8th and 9th graders. So when teachers motivate in school, they're doing that to help the child reach their goals and to help them continue to work, even though they may have a challenge. You've done this before too. Don't tell me that your child did not have a challenge in those preschool years when they were a baby, when they were a toddler. Maybe your child went through certain physical or behavioral challenges. Maybe your child had a speech issue and you had to work through that with them. The same will happen when you are doing certain academic work in your homeschool. You will have to have certain times where you motivate your child, and that could be cheering them on with a positive word, or it could be something a little bit organized like a sticker chart, or maybe an agreement you have with your child. If they do so well with their attitude or with their work ethic, then they will get to go take a special trip somewhere. What you need to know is that piece of paper called a teaching certificate. Yes, you have to have that to teach in the public schools. It's part of the law. However, that piece of paper and that degree and that certificate doesn't necessarily make someone a good teacher. I think we all know that. And just because someone doesn't possess that piece of paper doesn't mean they're suddenly unable to teach someone or get ideas across to someone. Teachers are always learning constantly. This is why they have teachers go to in-services and special meetings or read special books or continue their education. You will be continuing your education if you choose to homeschool your child. You might have interviews where you talk to another parent that's been doing it a while. You might listen to a podcast about homeschooling, or someone may recommend a book to you that helps you see things in a different way. You're continuing your education just like the teachers in school are continuing their education. Now, you need to remember that homeschooling is not going to look just like a regular school day. The schools are set up more in a factory oriented mindset. They have students that all have to reach these standards by this set time. It won't be quite that way when you homeschool. And for my own children, there are certain things we didn't get to this school year that we may use the summertime to work on a little bit before we officially start our next school year. You can do the same. If you need to adjust something in a certain area, you can do that as well. There's never been an easier time to homeschool with regards to the amount of resources you can find. Frankly, it can be overwhelming. Drop a comment below. If you are someone thinking about homeschooling, this is all new to you, and you kind of get a little bit overwhelmed. Okay, well, that is normal. So as you go along, you'll remember some things you have to be reminded of. You may find a curriculum that you like, you may find one that you don't like. Just remember there's no such thing as a perfect curriculum. It is completely okay to supplement or even to change your curriculum mid-year. The only thing I would say is try not to change your curriculum like too frequently, but don't be searching for the one and only perfect thing because it just doesn't exist. The main thing is to stay consistent. If you see a weakness, make some adjustments. Now, here's one thing that is said very often in homeschooling, and that is, as a homeschool parent, you get a chance to reclaim your education. Maybe you grew up thinking you weren't the best math student, but you know what? A lot of homeschool materials are written for people who have never been teachers. And so they give a ton of extra support to that parent in knowing how to present material, how to say certain things. They may come with a little script to help you teach that. They may come with extra tools. So you're going to be learning as you go along, just like your child is learning. And you might think, I didn't get that the first time when I went through school. I never really understood math that way. But wow, now that I'm teaching it to my child, I really get it. And you might find that some of your enthusiasm rubs off on your child. Well, what other questions do you have? I hope that I have calmed some of your fears and concerns, but if not, please drop a comment below so that I can have another idea for another video to help you out. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Be sure to check out the Parent Teacher Bridge on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, you are your child's most influential teacher.